Before we begin, a set of car keys and a lot of tags on it has been found. If it belongs to anyone, they will be up here at the podium. So check your pockets. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. We are so happy you have chosen to be with us this morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whether you have come from near or far, you are welcome in this space. And welcome to all who are joining us through YouTube. We are happy you are joining us as well. Everyone is welcome here, the young, the aged, and everyone in between. It does not matter who you love, only that you do love. You are all loved in this church. We are so happy that you are all here with us to join in worship and community. I am Charlene Montgomery. I am the worship associate today for Dr. Jessie Downs, who has planned and leading this service, this Music Sunday. We thank our wonderful tech team for their contributions to make this service run so smoothly, and our music ministry who fill our space with beauty. After the service, please join in fellowship in the church hall. We acknowledge that the ground upon which we meet rests on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people, original nations of this land, who continue to call for justice and self-determination. We are stewards of these grounds so that generations to come might enjoy its beauty. Now, just a couple of announcements. We're keeping it short. There is a newcomers class December 3rd and 10th in the library from 12 to 1:30. That will be run by Reverend Kathy and Jessie, I believe. Not that Jessie, Jess. There will be a holiday potluck Saturday, December 16th from 5 to 8. Come and share food, games, and music with the RE community. It's always a great time. This year, our church is again adopting a family through Family Promise. There is a mom and dad and 7 children ranging from 1 to 10. So lots of fun things to buy, like baby dolls and action figures. Gift tags will be available after church at the social justice table. Please take one or more. Wrapped labeled gifts can be returned December 3rd and 10th for delivery on the 16th. Your generosity was overwhelming last year. Let's do it again and make it a very Merry Christmas for this family. Maria Testa can see you in the after the service. There's lots of good things happening in our church. Make sure you take these announcements home and hang them on your fridge. And now let us do what we've always come to do, is to greet your neighbor. Greet those you know well, and those who you may not. Go for it. You're loud. All set?
Let us begin our worship today with a translation of the text of today's prelude, Bless the Lord, O my soul, by Kirilo Stetsenko. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Blessed are you, O Lord. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all the blessings that he renders to you. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Blessed are you, O Lord. And now we will please rise in body or spirit and join in the words found in your order of service as we light our chalice. We gather in loving community, creating a shared vision of compassion and dignity for all to radically transform the world in which we live.
If all the children, young and old, anyone in childlike atmosphere, come on up. We have a story. Today's story doesn't have pictures to it, so you're going to use your imagination. So I'm going to start you out by saying, imagine a beautiful cat, whatever color you want it to be, sitting on a windowsill, surrounded by instruments and chairs and all kinds of stuff that you'd find in a music room. Got that pictured in your mind? Today is Music Sunday, so this is a story about different creatures' reactions to music. The name of the story is Leo the Cat and the Music Room. It's by Chrissy and Tom. The authors of this story also wrote it in two languages, English and Ukrainian, to support the people of Ukraine who are in the midst of a war. We wanted to share this story because this service is also supporting the people of Ukraine by featuring Ukrainian music. What a terrible noise! They're disrupting my tranquil afternoon again, Leo thought, closing his eyes and covering his ears with his paws. Can't an old cat enjoy his favorite place to nap in peace? With some difficulty, Leo stood up. He stretched and yawned on the windowsill where he liked to snooze. Recently, Leo's family had unceremoniously converted the room where Leo's favorite napping spot was into a music room. They had arranged chairs in a circle, and someone was always practicing on one of the various musical instruments that were scattered around the room. He already hated the violin the most. It went screech, and it hurt his ears. It actually wasn't new that his family was playing music. There was even a dedicated music room in the house. But it was strange that they were now practicing in the living room. Leo's family had started being joined regularly by music-making strangers. Leo usually liked visitors, but these people didn't notice him at all. It was like he was invisible to them. They went straight to their chairs and became completely engrossed in their music. Usually, Leo didn't mind human-made music, but this cacophony of sound could hardly be called music at all. There was no harmony. It was unbearable. The noises that were coming from the new music room reminded Leo of the cat concerts that occasionally took place at night in the neighbor's yard. Leo would cautiously, but in the perfect safety of his family's home, look down from his windowsill and think of how very glad he was to not be involved in the scary hissing and meowing of the neighborhood cats. He imagined the stray cats were fighting for their territory. Maybe they were making new friendships. Leo wasn't sure. Fortunately, he was never involved. In any case, they made similar noises to the violin that was being played. Leo instinctively arched his back and shook the tension from his body. This always caused him to lose a lot of his fur, but he didn't care. A big cloud of fur drifted throughout the room, sticking to the chairs, the carpet, and the musical instruments. Leo's family hated when his fur went everywhere. Just the other day, Leo overheard his mom looking frantically for a lint brush and yelling, "You'd think we have a lion in the house," with the way Leo is shedding. She had continued complaining, "You can't leave the house without brushing yourself off first. Has anyone seen the lint brush?" After another few minutes of searching, she exclaimed, "That's it. I'm adding 10 lint brushes to my Christmas wish this year." Leo wondered why his family didn't like his beautiful fur. Leo led a nice life with his family, and he appreciated it. But this new band practice in his favorite room was just too much. He decided he needed to defend his territory. Like the cats in the yard, he wanted his family and their guests to see how much they were disturbing him. The next time that the room was full of people tuning their musical instruments, Leo took action. He couldn't stand by and let this go on. He began to rub himself against the guests' legs. This was how he usually charmed visitors, but today he had another motive. As he moved around in between people's legs, he left behind more and more little tufts of fur. It didn't take long for someone to notice. "Leo, what are you doing? Can't you see we're making music?" A woman began to sneeze, and a man kept looking at his leg. The trumpet player even said that their instruments sounded clogged, but none of them stopped playing music. So Leo started singing along really loudly. He worried the music would drown out his voice, but then one of the musicians yelled, "What's wrong with your cat? It's impossible to concentrate in here." His family apologized for his behavior. "It's not usually like this. I don't know what's going on with him today," said Leo's mom. Leo was relieved they were defending him. He figured it was a good sign. Often when his family was very busy, they would lose track of time. Sometimes they would even miss his fixed meal times, which were otherwise very strictly observed. Leo wandered over to his bowl, nudged it with his paw to show that it was dinner time. The bowl tipped over, causing a loud crash as it hit the tile floor. Thank goodness it was empty, Leo thought. He was normally very careful. But even the crash of the food bowl only caught one of the guests' attention, and only for a moment. "How am I going to get them to stop?" thought Leo. He could find another spot to rest quite easily. There were plenty of rooms in the house, but Leo didn't want to give up his favorite room that easily. He had another idea. The plants in the house have a high value. They are a cherished source of pride to Leo's family. Sometimes Leo was even a little jealous of the palm tree, olive tree, and all the lemon trees because they were regularly tended to, pruned, and checked for bug infestations. His father even spoke to them. "It's nice that you feel so comfortable with us. Are you getting enough shade?" Sometimes Leo wanted to scream. "They're just plants. You should be taking care of me." He wondered now whether if he nibbled at one of the plants he could bring an end to this concert. Leo walked over to a small tree that didn't smell too bad. He was also quite hungry now, so it was also tempting. He jumped up onto the ledge of the plant's pot to get a better look at the leaves. Just as he was about to extend his paw to grab a branch, he lost his balance and the big pot toppled over. Leo leaped from the falling pot and grabbed hold of the chandelier across the room like a circus performer. No one could ignore that. Everyone dropped their instruments at once and jumped into action. Meanwhile, Leo dangled from the chandelier, but the room was quiet at last. Broken pieces of pot and soil were scattered across the floor. The guests looked between the cat still clinging to the chandelier and the mess on the floor in disbelief. Surely they'll help me down from here, Leo thought, but he had never seen his family so upset. Leo, what has gotten into you today? His dad yelled, struggling to compose himself. My beautiful little tree, I've been growing it for years. One of the guests suggested getting the cat down before the ceiling collapsed. Everything happened very quickly. Someone grabbed Leo and took him straight outside to the terrace and slammed the door shut. Leo sat there petrified. This was not how he had imagined this was going to go. He was a very well-behaved cat. He had never spent the night outside before. How could they? He wondered. Instinctively, Leo knew that no amount of begging and stretching at the door would help now. He had really disappointed his family. Leo thought of the upcoming cat concert tonight in the yard. The human concert didn't seem so bad now. I wish I had let them have that room. What if they never let me in again? Leo worried. Leo walked over to the gazebo and hid under a blanket to wait. After what felt like an eternity, the gazebo door creaked open. Oh, I hope it's not the other cats, Leo worried. But then he heard a familiar voice. Where are you, Leo? His mom said. He was so relieved. His family must love him a lot. He was quite sure of that now. The end. Let us now sing our children to their classes. Every week, we take a good portion of our Sunday morning offering and give it away to a social justice cause outside our church walls. The November Share the Plate organization is the International Institute of Buffalo. IIB was first established in 1918 to help women immigrating to the United States after World War I navigate life and employment in American society. Over the last century, programs have expanded to serve all refugees and immigrants that are seeking support. They offer employment training, cultural training, interpretation, and translation services, and services for survivors of domestic violence, abuse, and human trafficking. Outlined in the e-blast or your insert are different ways that you can donate: cash, check, PayPal, through your bank. If you are contributing by check, please indicate on the memo line if it is to be shared or if it is for your 2023 pledge. No matter how you choose to contribute, please be generous so that the ministries we love can continue and thrive.
Thank you.
A reading, a translation of a translation of the text for today's musical reflection, Prayer to the Mother of God, by celebrated Ukrainian poet Taras Shevchenko. I put all my hopes in you, my bright paradise. Into your mercy I place all my hopes, Mother, holy strength of all the saints. Immaculate, kind-hearted, I am praying, crying, and weeping. Most pure, look down on them, those robbed, blind slaves. Grant them the strength of your martyred Son, so that they can carry their cross and shackles to the very end. O justly praised one, I am begging you, Queen of heaven and earth, listen to their sighs and send them peaceful ends, O most kind. Then I, without malice, will sing, and impoverished villages will flourish. I will sing a quiet and joyful psalm of your holy fate. However, right now it is the time for weeping, sorrow, and tears. This humble man gives his prayer to you, Holy Mother, with the last of his power.
Let us now lift our hearts with a hurting world and with those who remain unwavering in hope and love. Hear these words by Lucille Clifton. Let there be new flowering in the fields. Let the fields turn mellow for the men. Let the men keep tender through the time. Let the time be wrested from the war. Let the war be won. Let love be at the end. Our hearts and minds unite with the people of Ukraine as they continue to struggle to save their country and their very culture. We hold in our thoughts the innocent people of Israel and the innocent civilians of Gaza. May their God hold them tenderly and bring them safely to their dreams of a peaceful, love-filled life. We hold in our hearts all who suffer from the injustices of the world. We also rejoice with all who are building their futures with joy, hope, and expectation. Let us now fill the sanctuary with the names of all our loved ones, suffering in sorrow or celebrating in joy, remembering that each name a breath, each breath a prayer. The breath of nature is upon us, the spirit of life is within us, and the community of love is among us. So be it, blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us for the final installment of Fall Music Weekend 2023, Prayers for Peace, collaborative choral events in solidarity with Ukraine. This weekend has been about 6 months in the making, and it has been a blessing to see and hear it all come together. Unlike my Music Sunday sermons of the past 2 years, I will not be speaking today from my personal experiences and expertise, but instead hope to share with you some of what I have learned from my collaborators on these events. Through the process of bringing this project to fruition, I have learned so much about Ukrainian music, culture, and history. I am truly grateful to all those in the Ukrainian diaspora who shared with me their knowledge, thoughts, and feelings about their culture and the ongoing struggle for Ukrainian independence. I hope that you all have already shared in that learning through the music, food, language, and brief musical histories shared at this weekend's Friday and Saturday concerts. I was asked at the end of last night's concert by some of the ladies of the Maria Ukrainian Women's Choir what inspired me to organize these events. As some of you may know, while I am not myself Ukrainian, I have some close ties with both people in Ukraine and people who have recently emigrated from Ukraine to the United States. In particular, my nephew Alexander and my nephew's mother Nadia live in Ukraine, and I see Nadia posting regularly on social media all that she is doing to help the Ukrainian soldiers who are struggling to access basic equipment such as transportation and boots, as well as beautiful videos she has made featuring her gorgeous dancing to Ukrainian music in honor of her nation's struggle. Seeing this, I wondered what I could do to support the brave and passionate Ukrainian people. Given that my skills are in vocal music making and event organizing, the idea of bringing together a large choir to perform a concert of healing music in solidarity with Ukraine emerged, with the hope that the event might help spread awareness about the conflict and encourage people to help in some way. The idea was formed, but I didn't really know how to execute it. In the very early planning stages of this project, my very Unitarian idea was that these concerts would feature Eastern European music generally, pointing towards how music can transcend national boundaries. The concert would, of course, feature Ukrainian music, but also include other Slavic songs of peace. One of those pieces under consideration was the All-Night Vespers by Sergei Rachmaninoff. While the idea behind this was that the Vespers were written to express an anti-authoritarian and anti-war sentiment, Rachmaninoff was, of course, a Russian composer. Although the Vespers are beautiful pieces, given the aggression of the Russians against the Ukrainians, I had a feeling that this might not be the right piece to program. And so I opened up a conversation about it with my aforementioned friend in Ukraine. What she had to say was this: on the one hand, I'm not going to deny that Tchaikovsky or Rachmaninoff are great composers, but on the other hand, we Ukrainians currently feel a great anger towards Russians because they are trying to destroy everything Ukrainian. I hope that we won't let this hate make us blind and full of negative thoughts about all Russian pieces of art. And of course, I hope that we will regain our independence and that this war will end soon. But if you read or heard what people in Russia think about us, your hair would stand on end. It's terrifying. In Russia, they all support this war and they think that we deserve to be attacked by their missiles, that our country, language, culture, nationality doesn't exist at all, that it's just a fake. I truly hope that the rest of the world will learn more about the Ukrainian people and will study our culture as something apart from Russian and Soviet culture. So my first lesson was learned, and it became clear to me that events truly in solidarity with Ukraine would work to uplift and celebrate the specialness of Ukrainian culture. The next step of this project became learning Ukrainian music and familiarizing myself with Ukrainian language. Again, I had so many wonderful helpers in this learning process. My former voice student, Mariam Desuns, shared with me many of the pieces that made it onto the final program, as did Victor Glasko, the director of the Ukrainian American Civic Center in Buffalo, who was essential in connecting me to the local Ukrainian community. The stunning Polish-Ukrainian folk song He Sokole that I've been singing around my house for months now was suggested to me by a Polish-American friend, Ola Rafalo. The director of the Maria Ukrainian Women's Choir, Kristina Moros, shared with me some of her sheet music and was extremely generous in a series of private coaching sessions on Ukrainian pronunciation. St. Nicholas's church choir director, Yuri Tsvarich, added insightful input about certain elements of interpretation, and UB student Antonina Bandrivska introduced me to the bandura, the haunting national instrument of Ukraine, and coached the full combined choir on their Ukrainian diction. In getting to know the pieces that made it onto the program, and many more besides, I learned about the rich musical history of Ukraine, and soon learned that a part of these pieces' power was that they had embedded within them the Ukrainian people's memories, joys, sorrows, and dreams. Some of the pieces in particular spoke to tragedies that have occurred in Ukrainian history and are ongoing. For example, a solo song offered up by bass baritone soloist Miron Deputat was originally written about a child who was killed in a concentration, been taken into Russia, separated from their families, and are being told that they are not Ukrainian, that Ukraine does not exist. While we don't know all of the details of these kidnappings, it seems clear to me that what we do know is that this is indeed a kind of genocide. As I mentioned in my concert talks, the incredibly powerful centuries-old piece for tenor and bass choir, Plivakacha, more recently became a requiem for the protesters who were shot during the Maidan Revolution, or the Revolution of Dignity. The protests occurred in Kiev in 2014 after the then Ukrainian President Yanukovych went against the Ukrainian parliament's decision to enter into an agreement with the EU, but instead gave in to Russian intimidation and allied Ukraine closer with Russia. Protests broke out in the capital against this decision, as well as the more general corruption, police violence, and human rights violations of that government. The protesters were met by riot police that killed over 100 people. Although many in the US believe that this war only started about 2 years ago, for Ukrainians, it is clear that this conflict has been going on for at least 9 years. As I also mentioned in my concert talks, Melodia by composer Miroslav Skorik, performed by our own Christopher Sershula on piano, was written in remembrance of those millions of Ukrainians who perished as the result of an artificial famine created by Stalin from 1932 to 1933, called Holodomor, or death by hunger. Shortly before, Ukraine had had its independence taken away. Following that, many of its leaders were subjected to a campaign of intimidation, arrest, imprisonment, and execution. The famine was created by attacks on farmers who had their livelihood and sustenance, as well as the sustenance of a whole people, confiscated and destroyed. This song drove home that this conflict goes back even further still. When I asked Victor to share his knowledge about the history of the war, he said that some trace Ukraine's battle for liberty to over 100 years ago, around the time when Mykola Leontovich wrote the famous song Szczedrik that you heard as the offertory today. Indeed, the stories of all the composers on this program include some element of their fight to share and preserve their culture, and many of them met tragic ends in their efforts to do so. The ladies of the St. Nicholas Church Choir, who spoke at the end of last night's concert, cited a 400-year conflict, and Victor told me that the conflict could also potentially be traced back around 1,000 years once the Ukrainian-Russian cultures originated. Clearly, the history is long and complex. That's why I had originally hoped that we could have a guest speaker with us today who could tell you more from personal experience and expertise, but I am nevertheless glad that I've had the opportunity to share with you some of what I have learned and to tell you a little bit about the many wonderful individuals who have moved me with their generosity of spirit, passion for their culture, and heart-wrenching stories about the atrocities that their people continue to face. I am grateful to you all for coming out this weekend and being willing to learn with me, and I encourage you to do what you can to continue that learning. We have 2 Ukrainian cultural centers in our city alone that could be a good starting point for building connections. Or maybe you even built some connections through participating in the past 2 nights of concerts. The concert audience's generous contributions to the Ukrainian American Freedom Foundation will certainly make an impact. Other ways you can help include letter writing campaigns to let the Ukrainian people know that the rest of the world hasn't forgotten them, mentoring refugees in the US, or helping Ukrainians to develop English skills through online learning platforms, or learning or supporting other efforts like those of the Ukrainian American Freedom Foundation to send medical supplies, food, and clothing to Ukraine. I cannot wrap this up any more beautifully than the members of the St. Nicholas Church Choir who presented the stunning Ukrainian painted eggs, or pisanka, to Taryn, Claudia, and I last night. They expressed their belief that in sharing together across cultural boundaries, as we have done, or as we have had the blessing of doing this weekend, is how we can enact our prayers for peace and safeguard this incredible, delicate, egg-like world that we share. In honor of their beautiful sentiment, let us hold all that we have learned in our hearts and rise in body or spirit to join in singing hymn number 159, "This Is My Song," found in your gray hymnal. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love.
A translation of the text today's postlude, Prayer for Ukraine, by Mykola Lysenko. Lord, O great and almighty, protect our beloved Ukraine. Bless her with freedom and the light of your holy rays. With learning and knowledge enlighten us, your children small. In love pure and everlasting, let us, O Lord, grow. We pray, O Lord Almighty, protect our beloved Ukraine. Grant our people and country all your kindness and grace. Bless us with freedom. Bless us with wisdom. Guide us into a kinder world. Bless us, O Lord, with good fortune forever and evermore.